spending money on feasibility, whether we're gonna get into school business or not, unless you're gonna convince the taxpayers to raise their property taxes, I just don't see it going anywhere. I mean, all the cities I looked at in Birmingham area that we all look to are anywhere from 14 mills up to 20-some mills for education. And that means in Fairhope, you'll be doubling your property taxes.
The city of Tuscaloosa was 22 mills when I was out there.
I think.
In the city only, not the county.
Mountain
County was
Brook,
at
Mountain Brook
minimum.
is 14 mills. This Davy, I think, is 20. Homewood, I mean, they're all right. They're all, I've got every one of them. And they show that they have those 60, 30 mills, but out of that education only, they're ranging anywhere from 14 to 20, usually the average.
But I guess it would be prudent, though, to know that if you're gonna spend money on 2/3 of the study, how much extra are you gonna spend for the feasibility part of it? And when you wanna go back and revisit that later.
All right, on the point, let me make it clear. When you start looking at the millage rate, you have to understand on the funding issue, a mill in Mountain Brook is different than a mill somewhere else. And so what you're trying to do is we can look at what do we want education to be, and what's it going to take. And then when you look at the county situation, we don't know how much resources they're going to have to make an investment.
Thank you for being with us.
I'm just telling you, it's gonna be a hard thing to sell to the citizens. They're not gonna raise their taxes. I mean, I don't think they're raising 3 mills right now, but maybe we'll get to it. The renewables, you gotta have 60% on that one mill. Can you imagine 60% of the people right now voting to renew those taxes in Baldwin County?
Okay, one last thing to think about as you're leaving, going to your next function. You know, say that's true, that the citizens wouldn't even approve a 3 mill tax at this point. They're not gonna raise their property taxes 3 mills. You know, what if the EAC proposed to the council that we designate a percentage of the sales tax income to schools?
I mean, we're doing that kind of now. We're taking the money out of the pot.
Yeah, but I'm talking about a permanent revenue stream where it's not, you know, where it's not contingent on the council approving those funds every year, that it's.
Well, they still have to prove it, even if it's in the pot. You still have to vote to spend every dollar every year by state law. So even if it's in a pot and it's separated for stuff, you still have to vote every year to spend it.
I know. I'm just saying that if you know it's there, though, if we know, because a half of 1% of sales tax would generate about 1.75 million. That's.
Just to comment on one of the things you said, I love what you said about maybe offering French, because that's not currently offered. One of the issues is, so let's just say we fund it for 1 year. That's about all we can do at this point. As a parent, would I sign my child up for 1 year of French, not knowing if it's gonna be offered for year 2, 3, and 4? I mean, you see the challenge. So I think that, we love your ideas. What we're trying to do is figure out, how are we gonna pay for it? I mean.
Well,
That's the reality.
Well, that's the part that we have to figure out.
That's why I was asking that question.
You know,
Right.
to me,
I mean,
We gotta forget the hour study and what we're already doing with the minimal investment we've got. We've gotta be able
all
to
they
talk
showed
about.
us is changing from one to the other. I'm not interested. If we're gonna do it, we need to offer French. We need to offer those other courses. But that costs a lot more than what Harvey was trying to tell you. And the citizens wanna know what they're buying. The debate should be in Fairhope is, do we wanna add another amenity to the pot of Fairhope? We have a beautiful library, we have a golf course, we have recreation, we have all these things. Well, if the citizens of Fairhope say they want their a school system, that's the debate. And then we have to figure out how to pay for it. But the first step is that something they want to add in the pot? And if they say no, there's no really, the debate doesn't matter how much it costs, because we can argue we pay too much for the library, we pay too much for recreation, we pay too much to pave streets, or whatever we do as a city as a whole. So I don't know how you get to that point.
well, I guess I feel like the community's already said they support education. I mean, I think that's
They
the
support
vote.
education, but they're not willing to.
They haven't been asked by this group.
I have a question, and here's what never got answered in that poll, was this: were they voting against Baldwin County spending those dollars on education? If we took that poll again, that,
Well,
if
even
we
if-
took the referendum again and asked, would you spend those dollars in Fairhope schools if they stayed in Fairhope, would those results not be significant?
I've yet to have anybody come up to me and said they wouldn't do it, so I mean.
Well, Councilman Burrell said just the opposite. He asked a guy who, he just got into a conversation with someone who didn't really know a whole lot about it, and the guy said that he voted against the referendum. And, you know, Jack said, for goodness gracious, why'd you do that? And he told him that it was, he felt like we had no say-so. And Jack said, well, let me just ask you a question. It was right after the last council meeting. He said, what if you knew those funds were gonna stay in Fairhope, that Fairhope had its own? And he said, oh my gosh, yeah, I voted yes right away. And he said, do you think others feel that way? And this is Jack telling me the story. He said, do you think other people feel that way? And the guy said, oh, absolutely.
And then the voting pattern historically,
And
there
that's
has been
one
support
anecdote.
for education in this broader community.
But even on the renewal this last time, if you look at just in Faro, I mean, it was 70% against.
No, that's not even
The
close.
numbers.
No.
No, the
No,
renewals
no.
in Fairhope, here at the Civic Center and at the Free Circle Church, both passed.
Yeah, but not the increase.
But not the increase.
Not the increase.
Not the increase.
But they were close.
But I think that's where the things broke down, because people just said Bill Baldwin and had no idea what, that they were even
Well, they knew we weren't
voting
getting
for.
anything for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I just think going from that step to step, it's too big a step, and I think we just need to look at the different programs that we wanna have, and what that costs, and how we make that happen. That's just my opinion, and I'm just one person, because we got a great South Alabama and a Faulkner campus. I think there should be ways to partner with them to help with some of these courses, maybe.
I agree.
But then you could use them, at the French, you know, how much does it cost to send how many students to a French course in the South that has it at a regular time? And then we're only having to pay for a student spot instead of for a whole program. If we don't have enough students, will we get in some of these classes?
Good idea.
I don't know, but I think we need to brainstorm all that. I'm not smart enough to know what the right, wrong answer is, but I think everybody agrees we want to, you know, have very positive things for our kids. I want to make sure we have things positive for the ones that are not going to go to college. I mean, we've got probably 20% of the kids that come out of Faro are going to use their hands and go to work. The trade schools are also out there paying big dollars. I mean, you go on the assembly line of Mercedes, $75,000 a year is what they're paying them on the assembly line. I mean, that's a pretty good salary. So what I'm saying is it can't be all just academic. We have to deal with the kids and families that are gonna go build our schools and be electricians and all those things.
We couldn't agree more. We want a good, solid foundation for everyone, regardless
Now,
of
how we get
their
there,
ultimate place.
that's why we're having a debate. So I think as long as we're willing to talk and listen, I think
We're
we'll get
gonna
our.
leave the debate, we got a whole lot, we got